Hey everyone, welcome back to another Rebor review. Today we'll be taking a look at their grab-and-go Tyrannosaurus Rex. This is the second figure in the grab-and-go line, the first one being their Komodo dragon. And for those who are unfamiliar what this line is about, it's Rebor's version of P&So's large hollow vinyl figures. It's meant to be a much more budget-friendly line, no fancy boxes. Since they're made out of hollow vinyl, they are much cheaper to produce, and this figure only retails for just about 20 bucks. And also, this figure is currently available at Everything Dinosaur, and I'll leave a link in the description to that listing. Now, there are currently two versions of this T-Rex available. This one right here is the Type B version, or the red-headed Rex. The other version, Type A, has a color scheme very similar to the Rex from Jurassic Park. But there's also two more versions of this Rex planned for later on next year. There's a green version, which is very similar to the Papo Rex. And there's also a skull-headed Rex coming out, which is very similar to the one that we saw in Dinosaur Revolution. And that's the one I'm the most excited for. So I was a little bit disappointed that Rebor pushed that one on to later on next year, but I'm still going to pick that one up. Now, the only thing that comes shipped with this figure, like I said, it does not come in a fancy box. It gets shipped in a clear plastic bag with a clear holder to keep the feet straight. You do get this clear stand right here if your T-Rex is having stability issues. As you can see, mine stands perfectly fine on 2 feet, but if you're having issues with yours, just place the stand underneath the chest. You don't have to worry about this figure falling over. All right, let's start with a nice 360-degree view of this figure. It's a good T-Rex. It's not even close to being a perfect T-Rex. I do have a few issues with this figure, but we'll get into those a little bit later on in the review. The sculpt is nice. There's a lot of nice sculpted detail on this figure, and for a $20 figure, it is pretty good. The main body coloration is a light green with this darker green pattern on the back. The head is a mixture of deep reds and orange, and I think that's a really cool touch. I do like the red head on this Rex. You can see the hind foot right there is lifted off the ground slightly, like this animal's about to take a step forward. So for 20 bucks, it is a decent Rex figure. All right, let's just do a couple quick measurements before we take a closer look at this figure. This figure is about 17 inches long from tip of the tail to tip of the snout, and about 5 3/4 inches to the top of the head right there. So T-Rex in real life was about 40 feet long. So those measurements, I put this figure kind of close to that 130 scale range. It's listed as 135 scale, but it's obviously much bigger than that. All right, let's zoom in and take a look at some of the finer details on this figure, starting with the head. Now, the profile is a beautiful rendition of a T-Rex skull. The only problem I have with it is slightly shrink wrap. You can clearly see the inorbital fenestra and the orbit. I just wish there was a little bit more beef on the head of this figure, but it does have a lot of nice, beautiful scale detail and variation, some larger scales along the nose right here. We have some nice scales on the top of the head, and I love this deep red color. I wish my camera would want to focus on it. You have this nice dark wash going over it. You have all these nice beautiful scales. You have some large scales along the bottom jaw. The teeth are nice and sharp and beautifully painted. And turn the figure forward, you can see it has some beautiful binocular vision. Let me just zoom in on that, and you can see the figure has the classic gold eyes and the black pupil that Rebor is known for. And then inside the mouth, you get some nice detail on the tongue. You have a nice dark wash going over it, bringing out some nice detail. And then turning the figure over, you have some nice detail on the roof of the mouth. And then right here along the side of the head, you can see some visible seams. It's very reminiscent of the older large P&So vinyl figures. You see the ear canal sculpted in right here. But then when you get down to the neck, the scale detail just stops. It just goes into all these folds and wrinkles with just a couple large osteoderms sculpted in, and I'm just not a fan of that abrupt scalation stop. And then when you get down to the shoulder region, you can see the shoulder blade clearly, and you can definitely see some ribs along the side. That's another problem I have with this figure. It is not that beefy of a Rex figure. It's kind of lean looking. And then going down to the hands are sculpted very tiny as they should be. Some nice sharp feeling claws on those hands. And then on the stomach, you can see some nice beautifully sculpted stomach scales. There is some very light scalation along the body. You get some large osteoderms that extend to the thigh. And then going down to the hind legs, you can see some really nice muscle detail. Another seam along the kneecap right here. And then going down to the feet, you have this nice dark coloration, bringing out all that scale detail in the feet. The claws are nicely sculpted. Now, the biggest problem I have with this figure is when you turn it over and look at it from the back. T-Rex had a very wide and barrel-shaped body, and it does have it in the front part, but when you get to right before the hip region, it is very, very skinny looking. There should be a lot more bulk right here just before you get to the hips, and I just think that just does not look good in my eyes. The figure looks okay from its profile, but when you look at it from the top, that is just, ugh, I'm just not a fan of how that looks. Here is their first T-Rex figure. Here is their King Rex, and it has much more bulk, and I would much prefer this grab and go Rex have the body of the King Rex, obviously with the head of this figure, because this King Rex did not have binocular vision. Ugh. And moving down to the tail, you can see another seam right here, but the way the folds and wrinkles are sculpted, it does a good job of blending that in. Then you get some more large osteoderms along the top of the tail. You see got more of that scalation along the bottom right here, continuing all the way to the tip. I really do like the light green coloration and the red head on this figure. Definitely a fan of the color scheme. But this right here, this is really bothering me. It just looks like it ate Harbosaurus from the top. There needs to be a lot more bulk right here. So yeah, all in all, it is a decent T-Rex figure. Alright, let's move on with comparisons. Let's just get out the base of the Fallen Queen right here. And let's get out Rebor's first Rex figure, their King Rex. Let me just try to get these better into shot. You can definitely see the King Rex is a much, much more bulkier figure. But like I said, just the head on this thing is way too wide and there's no binocular vision. But I will say I do like how the Fallen Queen can be used to display this grab and go Rex. And next up is another Rebor Rex. Here it is with their Killer Queen, which is modeled after Jurassic Park. You can see how those two look together. They're both about the same size, but this figure probably weighs like 3 times more because it is made out of solid plastic. So this is a good comparison for like what is the benefit of the grab and go line. You're getting a T-Rex figure that's the size of this Killer Queen for less than half the price because of the material used. Like I said, this is a hollow figure versus a solid material figure. And next up, here it is with the Papo Green Standard Rex. You can see the Papo Green Rex is just a little bit taller because of that tripod stance. And next up, here it is with the PNSO Wilson T-Rex. And for some reason, this part of my studio is not that stable, so let's just use the stand for now. And next up, here it is with the awesome Safari Limited Feather T-Rex. And this is what I like in a T-Rex figure. Let me just get this more out in the open. Just the bulk of this Safari figure compared to the Rebor one. This is what I like to see in a T-Rex, a big, bulky, hefty animal like it should be in real life. And especially when you compare the chest cavities on these two figures. The Safari one just absolutely nailed it. You know, big wide hips, big wide chest. Just this is what I wish this figure looked like. I definitely want to get a bulky T-Rex figure without feathers. Right now we just don't have a definitive Rex. And one more Rex figure. Here it is with the old Batat Tyrannosaurus Rex that also has a very bulky chest cavity. And because we'll probably never ever see King Trident, here it is with the PNSO Triceratops, and I think these two figures scale really well with each other. And lastly, for comparison, why not? Because I have one of these sitting on the studio. Here it is with one of the beasts of the Mesozoic Ceratopsians. Here it is with the Medusa Ceratops. So final thoughts on this T-Rex figure. It's a good T-Rex. Like I keep saying, it is not a great T-Rex. I love the head detail on it. The paint scheme is really well done. I just don't like how all this beautiful scale detail on the head stops when it gets to the neck, and then it kind of starts up when you get to the body section. That just looks kind of weird. And just the bulk of this figure, it's a very lean looking T-Rex, especially when you look at it from the top. If you go online and look at pretty much any skeleton of T-Rex, T-Rex has such a wide and barrel shaped body, and this figure just doesn't have that. So we really don't have a definitive Rex figure from any company yet, you know, to call the ultimate T-Rex in our collection. I think the closest I have is the Safari one, but I'd love to have a non-feather one with that bulk and mass. But I will say, if you're looking for a large T-Rex figure and you're on a budget, for 20 bucks, this is a good figure. You know, you're really not going to get much with this detail and paintwork for that $20 price point. So it's definitely a great value figure for the price. And I'm kind of excited to see what the rest of the grab and go line will bring into the future. I know they had a really cool looking Spinosaurus plan, but it's been so long. I part of me thinks it was canceled. I don't know. Someone just let me know in the comments whatever happened to that thing. But just like everything else with Spinosaurus, every year that animal changes and now the Rebor one is obsolete. So let me know in the comments what you guys think of this figure. I'm definitely going to pick up the Dinosaur Revolution version when that comes out because I have such fond memories of that documentary. But I just this Rex just had so much potential. I just see the Dinosaur Revolution version being one of the more popular ones when that comes out, and the Type A version because it's modeled after Rexy. For us, accurate dinosaur collectors, I just don't see people picking this up. I guess a lot of us are waiting to see what that T-Rex PNSO has in store for us looks like. So anyways, that will do it for the review. PNSO just keeps chugging on along and releasing new figures each week, so I'll have a bunch more PNSO reviews coming up shortly. So stay tuned for those, and as always, if you're enjoying the content on this channel, show your support by hitting that subscription button just below the video. Each subscription helps out the channel tremendously, and it's greatly appreciated. I'll see you guys for the next one.